All right, 1 Corinthians 7, verse 22. For he that is called in the Lord. All right, that felt like Jasper in slavery. Care not for it. Why? He's the Lord's freeman. He's free. A Negro slave on a cotton plantation in Alabama with a straw boss chained to a bed at night, if he's saved, he's free. And he that is called, being free, is Christ's servant. And you people here that don't have a ball and chain around you, don't have a whip, you know what you are? You're slaves. You're slaves. Amen? Amen. Not very good slaves, but slaves. 23, you are bought with a price. Now you know the price. You are bought with a price. Be not ye the servants of men. Therefore, if you're serving a man, you do it as unto the Lord, not as unto the man. Brethren, reinforce that every man wherein he is called, therein abide with God. Now concerning virgins. And when he says virgins, it includes men or women. Notice verse 25, art thou bound to a wife, seek not to be loosed. Art thou loosed from a wife, and seek not a wife. But if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. If a virgin marry, now the female, she hath not sinned. And this makes a problem over in verse 38 to 40. Now, I'll read 38. No, I'll begin at 36. I'll read 36 to 40 and show you how this thing gets confused. Now, I never heard an exposition on it satisfied me and some of the other brethren. All right, 36. I'll read it as a man. If any man thinketh behaved himself uncomely toward his virgin, the fact that he's his virginity, his virgin, and she passed the flower of her age and need so require. Problem. Let him do what he will, he sinneth not. Let them, him and the woman, marry. Nevertheless, he that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power over his own will, and is so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin, his own virginity, doeth well. So he then that giveth, and the hers in italics, he that giveth in marriage doeth well, but he that giveth not marriage doeth better. Now read it as for a woman. 36. If a man think he behave himself uncomely toward his virgin daughter, and she, his daughter, pass the flower of age and need so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not. Let then his daughter and another man marry. Nevertheless, he, the father, that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity, but hath power of his own will, is so decreed in his heart, he will keep his daughter single, doeth well. But you see, it's thick, isn't it? 38, so that he that giveth his daughter to get married doeth well, the father, but he that giveth her not married doeth better. I may think it's a reference to a man, let me see your hands. I think it's a reference to a woman, let me see your hands. What do the rest of you think? But see, that's the thing. You see, that passage is rough. It's rough. I've read all kinds of commentaries. Going the Greek won't help you a bit. I've seen the guy run back in the Greek and pull out the Greek lections there. He got them a half a block long, and he still can't explain it. All right, verse 25. Now concerning virgins. Now it probably means women because of two passages. Verse 28, if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned. And verse 34, there is a difference between a wife and a virgin. But then when you get down to 36 and 37, it gets complicated. Yes.
Could it be like if a man behaves himself when he comes toward his virgin as his girlfriend?
Well, that'd be all right, except it says, so he that giveth her in marriage, but he that giveth her not. You don't give her away in marriage, her father does.
Yeah, that's a change there, I think.
Like what?
Like, so then he that gives her in marriage, it becomes
somebody else, huh?
Yes. To read better that way, too.
All right. Well, it's a free country. Now the trouble with that is 37 says, and is so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin. She's not his if they're not married.
Well, could that be like, I mentioned her, you got to talk the other day, engaged to John.
Oh, yeah. Job ever? Yeah, but still, she's not his till the marriage.
Well, he isn't a sense. The Lord, one that together, and this is not
That's a pretty strong sense.
You say one their spouse or referred to as their wife.
In the Old Testament. Yeah, in the Old Testament they are.
Well, right there, Joseph.
But I'll tell you right now, you want to get in trouble. He says, wives, be in subjection to your own husbands. Wives, obey your husbands as on the Lord. Now, I have seen in times past here, 4 or 5 years back, fellows engaged insisting that the girl they're engaged to be in subjection to them as unto the Lord, on the ground of the Old Testament passage. And that's a bunch of baloney. Because the verse that deals with husband and wife in subjection, the context is Adam and Eve. And that's before the law. And they're one flesh. They're not engaged. Yes.
He is not real marriage.
Why is she called his virgin? Well, so they don't get married. She sue him for breach of promise or what? Well, then she can sue him for breach of promise. She can sue him for breach of promise. Well, okay, let's get back over where we were. All right, 25. Now, concerning virgins, people who've never been married, I have no commandment of the Lord. That is, Lord didn't give them direct revelation concerning. Yet I give my judgment as one that hath obtained mercy of the Lord to be faithful, which of course is true. It isn't like, well, take verse 40. If you wanted to take Paul literally, that'd be a good one for losing your salvation. I think I have the Spirit of God. See verse 40? But that statement is like, and I think I have the Spirit of God. That verse is like, and I think also I have the Spirit of God. That's like, I think I know what I'm talking about. It isn't like, I think I know what I'm talking about. See, it's a different kind of thing. All right, so in 25, it isn't, he's guessing, it's the Word. Yet I give my judgment as one that hath obtained mercy of the Lord to be faithful. I suppose, therefore, that this is good for the present distress. I say that it is good for a man so to be. Then it was male or female. See? It is so good for a man to be. Verse 25, concerning virgins. All right, verse 26, I suppose, therefore, that it is good for the present distress. I say that it is good for a man so to be. All right, then, 3 statements. First statement, art thou bound unto a wife? All right, the advice to a man who is bound to a wife, the advice is, seek not to be loosed. That's the advice. Second statement, art thou loosed from a wife? And it's the same word there, loose, same word for divorce every time you find it in the New Testament, including bill of divorcement. Art thou loosed? Past tense. The man was married. Art thou loosed from a wife? And it plainly is not virgin, because virgin is in the next verse. All right, 27. Art thou loosed from a wife? Answer, seek not a wife. But, all right, then there's something added to it. But if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. And if a virgin marry, there's somebody who's never been married before, she hath not sinned. So the statement is a remarriage is permissible, but it's warned against. Art thou loosed from a wife, seek not a wife, but, and if thou marry, thou hast not sinned. Or what's the case of a person who never got married before? And if a virgin marry, not somebody who was loose, but somebody who never was married, she hath not sinned. Second caution, nevertheless, such shall have trouble in the flesh. Third caution, verse 39 at the end of the verse. Third caution, only in the Lord. Remarriage has to be to a Christian. Remarriage has to be to a Christian. And then 3 warnings. The first one is, don't look for remarriage. The second one is, only in the Lord if you do. And the third one is, if you do, you're going to have trouble in the flesh. And, of course, you will. All right, 28. Nevertheless, such will have trouble in the flesh, but I spare you. It's like my purpose is to spare you. I'm giving this advice to spare you the trouble. But I spare you. But this I say, brethren, the time is short. Boy, if it was short in his day, what must it be now? But this I say, brethren, the time is short. It remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none. Now, that's a good verse for leaving your wife and running off to Africa and not sending back any money. Those that be married be as though they had none, see? But of course the context is not, I just pretend like I'm not married, see? That isn't it. I'll keep on reading. But the time is short, it remaineth that both they that have wives be as though they had none, illustration, and they that weep as though they wept not. There's something hypocritical about the Christian life, in that when you rejoice, you don't really rejoice, although he says rejoice for them that rejoice. And when you weep, you don't really weep. He says, sorrow not as others sorrow who have no hope. In other words, there's a sense, the Christian life is a paradox, a contradiction. And the Christian rejoices, part of him is always in reserve. Why? Because he knows that isn't the final answer. And when he weeps, he doesn't really weep, because he knows that isn't the final answer, see? That's another thing, that's what he's saying. And he's saying, when you give yourself over to rejoicing, don't forget to put on the rein, see? Because hard times are coming. And when you're down in the mouth and depressed and discouraged and burdened and oppressed, don't give way to depression and quit and throw in the towel and quit, because the end isn't yet, and the end's going to be all right. So it's a one to put a slack on there. All right, 30. They that weep as though they wept not, they that rejoice though they rejoice not. It goes even further than that. And they that buy as though they possess not. So when you buy something, you own it. You don't really own it the way the world owns it. Now, you may have papers on it, say you own it. But you don't really own it, do you? No, you don't really own it. And about the time, sometime we get things we do, the Lord takes it from us. And then we realize we don't. So we're stewards, and the Lord's entrusted us with these things. And the house and the car and the land, the children, all that is stuff given us. The Lord seemed to say, well, I think he or she can handle it, so I turn it over to them to take care of and entrust them with it. But it's not ours. Now, if we were unsaved people, it would be ours until we died, and then we'd lose it all again anyway. And Paul said about the Christian, all things are yours. All right, 31, and they that use the world is not abusing it. You can use the world. You can invest money. You can buy insurance. You can invest in stocks and bonds. You can get your business down here and trade with the world. You can use the world as not abusing it. But you can't really throw yourself into it the way an unsaved man does. A Christian always has a drawback that pulls him back so he never can get fully committed. That is, if he's any kind of a Christian, to anything but the Word and the Lord. There's always that caution. And you see it all the time. I see it all the time. You see it especially in sports. Because men love to throw themselves into sports. And boy, that's just gung-ho, slam, bam, you know. But you know, a real safe person never can get over kind of standing back and kind of looking at it and seeing the humor in it. And unsaved people don't appreciate it a bit. You know, I've seen a guy wind up in just a serious, wind up big time stuff, or run around the bases the way they do in the movies. And I've just laughed at him. And somebody said, well, put all you have into it. Yeah, but you know something, if you're a Christian, you can't really put all you have into anything like that. Not all, see? You can put a lot, but not all. Because if you're really right with the Lord, this part of you always withdraws back and knows that that thing ain't real. So there's always that pullback there. I watch him, I don't watch him much anymore, but 4 or 5 years ago I used to watch him play golf. And to me, nothing was any funny. So the guy missed that ball and cursed, man, just and swing and go over, miss the cup by 2 inches and slam his clubs against the tree. Man, I've seen a set of clubs must cost $35 a piece, and the guy just bam, just wrap it around the tree, And I've seen him get out there and before the guy make a shot, he get down like this, his hands and knees, like this. Rod, lay his rod out there, and then see which way. Well, man, nothing in the world's worth that kind of foolishness. And the fellow said, well, he was betting, he was playing for a bet, and it was worth some money to him. Well, I don't know if I'd do that to even get $1, man. There must be a way to make $1 in that. Get on your knees and sighting out a bunch of ants and bugs and grass. Yeah.
You mean Christians don't make good drag baits?
No, Christians don't really make expert anything except Christians. And William Jennings Bryan's a good example. He's a great Christian. He tried to be a politician. Well, he was a great politician, but he wasn't the best. He couldn't be the best. It just seemed like you take Bob Jones Sr., now honestly, he was one of the greatest politicians that ever lived. If that guy had entered politics, he'd have got to be a senator without even trying. I'm certain. I used to him often say that politics was his weakness. He was always tempted to get in that. But he never could be the best at it because there'd always be something just kind of pulling you back because the thing isn't real. And I see him go down here side of the dojo and go through all this stuff, get up there and talk about points. You're going to lose points there and lose points there. And going now minus 50 points if you don't do this. And you do this flip right and do this crash right while you get 50 points. If you don't land right, you sail through the air while you lose 25 points. And some of those young fellows just work at it like dogs. Boy, I saw one fellow, he thought he was going to get a promotion. He didn't get it. He had a hair cut down to his back, He looked like, kind of an airplane Christ with yellow, red hair and mustache and beard, And, he's a high belt in judo, and all this stuff. And he didn't get his promotion. That poor boy sat down and just sold like Peter Michael. He really did. Fell in his trot. He just sat down there, just depressed, man. Eyes just vacant. The instructor bawled him out, and he just sit there and just. Big tough guy, I thought I'd going by and, put my arm around him and say, come on, man, ain't that bad. 25 points, what's 25 points? Ain't going to kill you. You're not going to miss the rapture over 25 points. But that's the thing, see, it's also serious with it, And to us, why, the serious things are the Lord and heaven and the book, And seeing people saved and fellowship with the Lord and rest. You can take it or leave it, man. It's all right. Take it or leave it. All right, 31. For the fashion of this world passeth away. There's why you better not get too attached with it. It's going to leave. John says, the world passeth away with the lust thereof, but he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. For the fashion, that's a good word, the fashion of this world passes away. They change fashions every year. Of course, he means the shape, the system. It's gone. But it's true of the fashion. For the fashion of this world passeth away. When I was a boy, we called the old-timers long hairs. The guy was a square, we called him a long hair. When we said long hair, we meant a fella who played a violin, or played in the symphony. That was long hair, because Beethoven and Brahms and Haydn and Bach and all them had long hair. And nowadays, and when I was a boy, the bunch that was like the hippies all wore burr haircut, true haircut. Well, the fashion passes and changes. And the world says, well, if it changes, then what's wrong with it? Well, the thing that's wrong with it is the world approves of it, see? It's the world system setting up a thing, and you shouldn't be conformed to the system. In plain words, the Christian should be sometimes revolting just on purpose. I like our sextets and girls' trios at the church. I always like them. Because I don't know much about fashion, but I know a little, And I just want to go spare the hair down the middle of her back, and the next one's got her hair cut. And the next one got her dress down below her knees, and the next one got it to her knees. And the next one got something on down that goes down over her waist, and the next one stops above her waist. And you know what that means? That means those girls aren't paying any attention to what the world thinks about clothes. And to me, that's fine. That's fine. That's just the way it ought to be. And way to dress when you get up in the morning and say, Lord, what you want to have me wear, and then take what you got if you got anything. Husbands buy you anything. All right, 7:32. You'd appreciate that if you traveled more. I go around a good bit, you know. I get up around Cincinnati and Ohio and Cleveland, Detroit and Canton and Texas and all over the country, and they have these girl trios there and sextets, you know, and quartets, and they get up. And when they get up, they all look the same. All look exactly the same. 6 years ago, they get up, every one of them was a spitting image of Jackie Kennedy. Every single one of them. And then last year, they were all a spitting image of one of these long-haired, like that, who's that ugly sniff Joanne Baez, you know, with the hair down there. And no makeup, you know. They all look like that. And it just means that those Christian girls are just taking Life and Look and Mademoiselle and Good Housekeeping, Ladies' Home Journal, and just keeping up with the cover. That's what it means. And you ought to keep up with the Lord, not the cover in some magazine. All right, 32, but I would have you without carefulness. I would have you not to be too careful. That is, don't be too overly careful and spend a lot of care about these things. Illustration. He that is unmarried careth for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord. Well, that's theoretical. I mean, that's the way it should be. If a man is unmarried, and of course he's talking about a Christian man. He's not saying all the unsaved single men care for the things of the Lord. That ain't it. But he's saying a saved single man cares for the things that belong to the Lord, how he may please the Lord, in the sense that there's nothing else to distract him. In other words, he can attend to that because there's nothing else, there's no competition to please. But now 33, he that is married, talking about a Christian man, careth for the things of the world, how he may please his wife. Well, again, it's theoretical. I mean, the idea is he should. Of course, some wives say, well, he doesn't. He don't care about pleasing me at all, see. But the idea is if you're married, I don't care how indifferent the man acts or how much he plugs up his ears. No man can live with a woman without being aware of what she wants and her gripes and complaints. Now, he may act like he doesn't hear, see? He may act like he doesn't hear, but he does. And he may not let you know that he hears. That's his vengeance. But he hears. And then throughout the day, it works on him, see? And then so he isn't free just to please the Lord. He's figuring something on that. So he says, well, he don't care. He only leaves his house, blah, 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 and he don't care nothing about what I say, nothing about what I do, and blah, 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 and all that. Well, let's put it this way. He doesn't... he doesn't show a loving interest and concern for what you want. We'll put it that way. But it worries him. And the context of verse 32 is worry. I would have you without carefulness. It's an over care, like anxious care. Be anxious for nothing. See, it's one of those. All right, 34. Now it works both ways. There's a difference also between a wife and a virgin, speaking of Christian women. The unmarried woman, of course, it's theory. You couldn't say all unmarried women in America care for the things of the Lord. You couldn't possibly say it, or even the saved women. The unmarried woman careth for the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. And theoretically, that means that if you're a single girl, then really there's no excuse for you to have to consider anybody to please except the Lord, because you don't have a husband to please. But keep reading. But she that is married careth for the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And the same thing holds true again, see? I mean, it works both ways. In other words, not every wife is interested in pleasing her husband in I'll do as you please, or whatever you want, I'll do it. She doesn't like that. But still, she can't put out of her mind what he says, and when he puts the pressure on, then she worries about it. And she may not act like she worries about it. So, well, my wife don't care whether I come or go. Come in the front door, go out the back, and all that. And that may be true, but still, well, let me just show you now. Now, When a woman gets where she really doesn't care, I mean, she really doesn't care for the things of the world, then when you come home, there's going to be nothing there to eat, man. And most of you bother to fix a TV dinner or get a Whataburger, a bucket of chicken or something. But that stuff there, those things there are done to please him. Now, he may not be pleased with it. See? And it may not be what he wanted. But if you weren't trying to please him at all, it wouldn't even be there. I mean, if there's no care at all for the things of the world, why then, I don't believe I probably have, but I don't recall it right offhand. I don't believe I've ever been in a home yet of a woman that just didn't give up, about anything. And I've heard a lot of them talk like they did, sometimes, but I don't believe I've ever been in the house of a woman who didn't. Because they've always done something to fix it up, see, to make it look nice, somebody coming in. That's the things of the world. And they always got a mirror. You never met a woman in your life too poor to have a mirror. And it'd be fascinating sometime just come to the house and just meet a woman that just didn't care about nothing, Wouldn't that be wild? Just sitting there lying, stuff all over the floor, clothes all over the ceiling, and a hole in the couch, and the windows all knocked out. And maybe they have some of that down on Haynes, North Haynes and Northeast Street. And maybe a woman who's a drunkard, or a doper on, maybe some of the houses look like that. But you'll find they try to straighten up something. Now, back in the old days, on the save women like that. I mean, they get drunk, man. They get sloppy drunk. They don't care about nothing, man. Nothing. But you wouldn't find I've never known a Christian woman like that. Always fix up, something they can look halfway decent. And they have an old saying out in the world, there's nothing sloppier, than a drunken woman. Man, it isn't. Boy, I've been in homes there, unsaved homes, where just, boy, man, you could tell nobody cared whether the thing burned up the next day or not. All you have to straighten up is put gasoline on a set of match to it. All right, 35. And this I speak for your own profit. Well, you wouldn't have thought it was, but it is. And this I speak for your profit, not that I might cast a snare upon you. He's not saying that I'm doing this to bust up your marriage and get you all living independent and kick your husband and wife out. I'm not doing that. But I'm doing it for this. But for that which is comely, that is fitting, handsome, proper, it's proper to do. And the second reason I'm telling you this is that ye may attend upon the Lord without distraction. In other words, in every married home where a man and woman are married, the man should be able to attend to the Lord without worldly distraction, and the woman should be able to attend to the Lord without worldly distraction. And the way you do that is you don't get wholeheartedly involved in the world. The way you do that is when you weep, you don't really weep. When you rejoice, you don't really rejoice. You withhold. There's a reserve there. Because the main thing is the Lord. All right, 36. But if any man, now here we are. I've been through this before. All right, we'll try it with your reading. One good as another. But if any man think he behave himself uncommonly toward the virgin he's engaged to, if she pass the flower of her age and need so require, let him do what he will. He sinneth not. Let him and the woman he's engaged to get married. It doesn't pass the flower of age. I don't know what that is. Need so require. What? Well, that looks like she's too old to have children. But then it says, let them marry. Rough passage, man. Yeah, you could make it the earlier age. You can make it the early age. Well, that's going to get kind of rough, too. That age sometimes 12, 13 years old. That's rough, man. Well, all right, maybe so. You're going to teach it in the church? Well, it's a Pauline epistle, see? These guys say they go by the Pauline epistles. They're raving mad, man. They don't go by them all the way. Or I will say, let him do what he will. If he sinneth not, let them marry. Nevertheless, he, the man that's engaged, that standeth steadfast in his heart, having no necessity to get married, but have power over his own will to stay single, and is so decreed in his heart that he will keep his virgin. Keep her single. Do it well. Well, when does a man have a right to keep a woman single? Unless he's her father. It won't work.
But that's just in the context of, all the way down up until verse 38.
Yeah, it's got as many points forward as the other two, but none of them can meet all requirements of the passage. Yes, yes.
Since the father's will for his daughter is to be happy, then if he recognizes that her desire is more so to be married than, more toward being married than toward divorce, then in order for her to be happy, they're going to be married. And then if he sees that there is no necessity, in other words, her desire is more toward divorce than to be married, then keep her, in other words, support her for the rest of her life, so that she might serve the Lord.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Has what? Yeah, 37. Let's see. No necessity for her to get married.
It was in his own will that he would see her.
His son steadfast not having no necessity. Yeah, it's going to get rough. 36. Let them marry. No, that could be. Let's see. I heard some of that. That meets most of the requirements to make it the father. How
would you explain the first part of it?
If a man think he behaves himself uncommonly toward his virgin, if he thinks he's doing wrong in not allow her married, and she passed the flower of age and needs to get married, let him do what he will, give her to get married. He, the father, sinneth not, let them, the girl and the fellow, get married.
So how would that fit a guy not sinning?
In where?
The father not sinning. Either way.
Sinneth not. He doesn't sin in letting her get married. Even though the verse said in verse 32, she that is unmarried, or 33, she that is unmarried, care for things alone. He still doesn't sin in letting her get married. Verse 28, if a virgin marry, she hath not sinned.
This has anything to do with being together, but yet not being able to marry. Once they were, because they had them eventually married. Maybe he stalled until she was past the flower of her age, which meant she couldn't have children, which was means for severing the marriage.
Oh.
Because she couldn't give children unto him as an inheritance. Therefore, he did not sin if he married her, even though she could not bear children.
Yeah, maybe. Boy, you have a hard time a father giving away a girl 60 years old.
I don't mean his father, I mean they just talk about the betrothed and the girl.
Yeah.
Could this be referring back to 28 being a virgin, married, a man that had been married, and then the father allowing her to marry him that was loose? That would be
Let them marry.
talking about man being loose in 22.
Yeah, I see what you mean. As you done marriage. You might read that in there. Well, it's reading over kind of far. Because it doesn't say the condition of the man, 36, 37, 38. On, yes.
It doesn't mention anywhere about father. No, in between.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. That's another problem. The father-in-law isn't mentioned anywhere in the chapter, and if he didn't show up here. Let's finish it up now. 38, so that he that giveth her in marriage doeth well, but he that giveth her not in marriage doeth better. On rule, the wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth. And of course it's her husband, not some other woman's husband. People keep reading, well, she got 5 living husbands, she got 2 living husbands, a bunch of baloney. She has 1. Christ says, the woman in Samaria, you've had 5, past tense. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, the one now. Implying he's been true to her, or technically he's not her husband, like Romans 7:2. The wife is bound by the law as long as her husband liveth, but if her husband be dead, she is at liberty to be married to whom she will, remarriage again. Caution, only in the Lord. Caution, but she is happier if she so abide. Stay single. After my judgment, stay single. And I think also I have the Spirit of God. All right. 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 1. Now as touching things offered unto idols. And you notice all through here, all he's doing is just, he's rebuking them. They got all kinds of troubles. And first he corrects one thing, and he corrects another. And back in chapter 5, he was correcting the matter of fornication. Chapter 6, the problems about lawsuits. And chapter 7, the marital problems. Now chapter 8, he goes into problems of testimony. And then in chapter 10, he goes into problems of the Lord's Supper. 8:1, now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. All right, now as touching things offered unto idols. This is something that's given to an idol or dedicated to an idol before it's eaten. And he's talking about food in the context. Come back to the Psalms and pick up one like it. I think it's Psalm 16. And you're not familiar with this, probably as Bible-believing Protestants, but all the heathen religions offer the food to the god before they eat it. And if the god's an idol, they offer it to the idol. Psalm 16, verse 4. Psalm 16, verse 4. Psalm 16:4, their sorrow shall be multiplied that hasten after another god. Their drink offerings are blood will I not offer, nor take up their names under my lips. All right, he says their sorrow shall be multiplied that hasten after another god, and their drink offerings, they offer this thing to the idol. Their drink offerings of blood, they offer blood to the idol. Will I not offer, nor take up their names into my lips? Do you know of anybody that offers a drink offering of blood to their god? Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 16. Deuteronomy 32:16. They provoked him to jealousy with strange gods, with abominations provoked they him to anger. They sacrificed unto devils. So they take whatever they give and give it to the devil, not to God. To gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom our fathers feared not. On the same passage about the drink offering, look at verse 32. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of gall, their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of dragons and the cruel venom of asps. So in those pagan religions, a man takes a cup and puts blood in that thing and offers it to the idol and then drinks it. Or if he takes fermented liquor, he offers the fermented liquor to the idol and then drinks it. And what you need to find is some group of people that take fermented liquor and hold it up there and pretend it's blood and then drink it. And those things are offered to idols. And those things have to do with the Lord's Supper. Turn to 1 Corinthians 10. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 15. 1 Corinthians 10:15. Whatever religion that is, it's connected with the Lord's Supper. 1 Corinthians 10:15, I speak as to wise men. Judge ye what I say. The cup of blessing which we bless, is it not the communion of the blood of Christ? There's a drink offering of blood. The bread which we break, is it not the communion of the body of Christ? But then, 17, we being many are one bread and one body. Then it's not literal blood. And it's not a literal body, it's spiritual. Verse 19, what say I then? That the idol is anything? And here's what we want. Or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols anything? But I say the thing which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. I would not that you should have fellowship with our seeds. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of the devil. You cannot be partaker of the Lord's table and the table of devils. So this drink offering is offered up, and then it's drunk, and Paul says it's an offering to the devil. And it's a drink offering of blood, and he said you shouldn't have fellowship with those kind of folks. All right, 8:1. Now, as touching the things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. That is, we know what an idol is. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Just because you know that an idol is nothing, that doesn't mean that your problem solved. 4, as concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice to idols, we know. Like verse 1, we know we all have knowledge. Verse 4, we know that an idol is nothing in the world. So we know that. But knowing that doesn't solve the problem. Is that Brother McGee? Is that you sitting there? I recognize. 4, we know an idol is nothing in this world, and there's neither God but one. All right, just knowing that doesn't solve the Christian's problem. Verse 7, howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge. So even though you may know some things, that doesn't give you right to do everything you know or practice everything you know or go according to everything you know, because some people don't know what you know. And this again is this Christian liberty business. Look at verse 9 or verse 10. For if any man see thee which hath knowledge, set it meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him that is weak, the fellow without knowledge, be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols, and through thy knowledge, or you're smart, through thy knowledge shall thy weak brother perish? So, just knowing the truth doesn't solve the problem. Just pure knowledge doesn't solve it. And some of the brethren seem to think sometimes if they can get all the doctrines down to a hairline and have every division just right and get it down just perfect up there, that that's all there is to it. That isn't all there is to it. And so didn't we have a cake at that last graduation on June? Didn't we have a cake with that verse on it? Knowledge puffs up, the charity edifies. I think we did, didn't we? And that's for a purpose, see? That's to show you when you get out that just knowing it all up here doesn't solve all the problems. Knowledge puffeth up. And when you get puffed up, you're liable to have a blowout. All right, 8:1. Now, as touching things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. All right, you know some things. You know, some of you know a lot of things a lot of folks don't know. You know a lot of things a lot of Christians don't know. But knowledge puffs up, but charity edifies. Love helps out. Knowledge doesn't always do it. So don't tell everything you know. And don't show everything you know. Don't dump all your cards on the table the first time. Now, I know that Flint, Michigan preached for 2 times a day for 5 days running, preached 10 times. And in those meetings up there, now wouldn't I have been a fool if I'd gone up there and told them everything I knew? That would have been a stupid thing to do. And wouldn't have been a dumb thing to go up there and just tell them everything I knew that they didn't know. That'd be a dumb thing to do. Knowledge puffs up, but charity edifies. I thought, wouldn't it be something if I got up there and the first night I preached on no women in heaven? And then the second night I preached on the Antichrist of Judas Iscariot. And then the third night I got preached up and preached on you can lose at the tribulation. And on the fourth night I got up and pointed out where the Bullinger had made mistakes in the Old Testament. That'd be a dumb thing to do. And the next night get up and preach something else, you know, and the head of the dragon is Alexander the Great resurrected. Wouldn't that be fine? That'd be a tremendous thing. And so knowledge puffs up. And your heart has to keep up with your head. Look at verse 3. If any man love God, there's the heart. If any man love God, there's the heart, see? And the knowledge is in the head, but the love's in the heart. But if any man love God, the same is known to him. If you love God, people know it. They sense it. All right, 8:1. Now, touching things, if a man loves God, he'll be careful how he exercises and uses his knowledge. 8:1. As touching things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge, right? We know that. So what? Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. And he explains it now. If any man think he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. That's quite a verse, isn't it? Do you think you know something, you know anything like you ought to know it? And like saying, if you think you know anything in the sense of you're proud of the fact that you know it, then you don't know it like you ought to know it. And if any man think he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. Oh, now wouldn't I be a fool if I went up there, you know, and the first night, suppose they asked me to go and give a talk at the Seminary at Tennessee Temple. I was going to talk to the faculty. Now, wouldn't I be a fool if I went up there and just dumped the whole thing on them at one time and implied that every single one of them that used any version except the King James was lost or backslidden? They go, Brother Martin up there, an old blind fella, he teaches, he's using ASB all his life. And he loves the Lord. He's been misguided, he's been misled, but he loves the Lord. Knowledge puffs up, but charity edifies. That'd be a dumb thing to do. Go up there and start some other way. Show them something from the Word they haven't seen and get them interested in it. And then when they ask questions, then put it on. See? Oh, I had a beautiful boy. I had one this week. Man, it was a rocker. They got me in a junior college up there at Flint. And one of those places where everybody had long hair, everybody had mustache and beard, and everybody had pajamas on, you know, and everything. And the professor had blue denim pants and tennis shoes and a beard and smoked a pipe in class. I mean, really fine, man. And it was a class in history. And the first 3 weeks of class, he had them come in there and he didn't teach them anything. He said, I want to have you find out what's true yourself. So for the first 3 weeks, they sat around and had a bull session. That was the first 3 weeks of history. You taught history, have you? That's the crowd. And so then after that, they got talking about religion, and finally he said, all right, the rest of this year we'll invite in the speakers. So the history class was the black Muslims, and the Black Panthers, and the Women's Liberation Front, and the CIA, and God knows what. And the guy had, anybody could come in, see, but had to happen, there was a Christian in the class. And he said, well, if you've got all these left-wing radicals in, why not one of these right-wing extreme Bible believers? And the professor, yes, I think that would be very interesting, this cool cats. And so they had me come in, And I was billed as kind of a Church of God evangelist, to come in. So they had me come in and gave me a whole hour to talk. And I got up there and drew a few things out on the board, and kind of took out the legs to start, so it wouldn't mean moving around. And they got asking questions about the Bible, and they asked questions so hard and so fast that you couldn't even hardly even deal with them. And those kids were asking questions, that class closed just as fast as they could ask. And 3 Bibles were in the class with 2 atheists looking up Scripture and quoting Scripture and arguing the Scripture. And they asked questions on Daniel's 70th week and the tribulation and the rapture and the millennium. You never saw such a thing in all your life. And we had them about 3 hours, probably got about half of them saved. And the Lord always has some plant someplace. And there was in that class a well-dressed lady, middle-aged lady, who was going back and getting her education, I guess. And she was just dressed neat as a pin and very conservative. I mean, you could tell she was of the establishment. And she sat there, and every time these fellows would really get going, and really get things hard, she'd raise her hand, and one of these baby Christians. She was a Methodist, but undoubtedly saved. And that quiet, sweet voice, she'd try to help the little children out, Oh, it was a riot. It was a riot, man. She'd raise her hand and say, well, I think that you boys don't understand, Dr. Ruckman. What he's trying to say is this, And boy, the Holy Spirit, they got thinking, come on home. But now you're taking a thing like that, you don't get up there and just dump all you know. What you come in is, you come in and give them something that interests them and then get them asking questions. And then tell them what you know, if they ask. If they don't ask them, tell them. Oh, it ain't one. Now, touching things offered to idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. If any man think he knows anything, in the sense of, I know it, nobody else does, he knoweth nothing yet as he ought to know. But, and this is the test, if any man love God, the same is known to him. That is no. If you keep on loving God, pretty soon you'll know it right. Bob Jones used to say, give God your heart and he'll comb out the kinks in your head. And that was one of Sam Jones' old expressions. If any man love God, the same is known to him. You can sense when a man or woman loves God. You can sense from the spiritual, if you got any sense at all. Because they'll do things, they'll act certain ways that can't be explained unless there's something in their affections ahead of the ordinary thing that's most people's affections. If any man love God, the same is known to him. Well, how do you know if you love God? Well, you know you love God the same way you know you're in love. Do you think of the other person constantly? That's one of the signs of love. Do you think of the other person constantly? Do you think of God constantly? Do you want to be with the other person? Well, if you love God, you want to be with God. Do you have faith in the other person? You have faith in the other person. If you love God, you got faith in God. You feel free to talk over everything with the person. A person that loves God talks over everything with the Lord. Everything. You want to give the person things. If you love somebody, you want to give them things. If you love God, you want to give them things. Amen? You're all sure quiet now. You almost quiet as those Yankees up there. You'll have a plague down here, a drought or something? I thought I'd get back in and be all amen and shouting now. All right, last of all, can you overlook the person's faults? If you love them, you can overlook the faults. And fortunately, you don't have to do that with the Lord, because he doesn't have any faults. But doesn't the devil make it appear sometimes like he does? And see, that's the acid part of it. The acid is when the devil shows up, does Job fear God for naught? So when the Lord does some things that you think he made a mistake doing, and it always happens that way somewhere, then if you love him, you overlook it. All right, 3, if any man love God, the same is known of him. As concerning, therefore, the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice to idols. We know that an idol is nothing in this world. It's a blank. And yet, you ever look at them sometime, especially some of those African things, and get kind of a spooky feeling? Maybe you don't do that. But have you ever noticed some of those things, those missionary shows? And you know, the little thing has kind of an aura about it. And it has kind of an aura about it that you don't find these things down here in the dime store. And you say that's just superstition. Well, it's not. Maybe it's because they've been prayed over. Maybe because the devil gives those little old figurines some attention. I'm sure the devil gives them some attention. And that's the big thing in voodoo. You buy a doll or something you don't like. You can't get answer to the prayer. Make a doll like them, stick pins in it, Stick a pin in it and they holler where you stick them with a pin and all that. And he's saying the idol is nothing in this world, so an idol lover is a God hater. And a God lover is an idol smasher. And that's one of the purpose in the ministry is to bust idols. They call it an iconoclast. An iconoclast goes around busting icons. So part of the ministry is kicking over idols. And there's more idols than just what you find down there at St. Francis and St. Michael's. And some of our young men in times past have gone to some of those churches and turned the idols upside down, on the heads, which is a little fanatic. I don't encourage them to do that. Honest to God. But I used to have a little old Christopher hung on the dashboard. I had him hung by his heels, upside down in the rearview mirror. And when I come up to the stoplight, I'd flip that thing, and just swing by the heels. And I'm telling you, if dirty looks could kill, I'd have been killed 5 times a day. And folks say the average Christian attitude toward that thing is, well, you ought to respect other people's religious beliefs. See, that's the modern approach. Kind of like Elijah in Christ. Kind of like Elijah in Christ, respecting people's religious beliefs. And I used to joke about it, and I wouldn't do this, but I've joked about it. I wouldn't do this. But I've often thought about taking a rubber statue of Mary and tying the back end of the car and dragging it downtown, and just boom, 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 down the road. And, of course, I wouldn't do a thing like that. But the fact that worries you when I say that shows something. It shows that Americans have a tremendous respect for pieces of junk. That's right. And an idol is nothing. It's nothing. One time a man went into a Buddhist temple and took some of the Buddhist idols and broke them on the floor and knocked them down. One of the Buddhist monks said, don't do that. That's defiling Buddha. And this man who was a real Buddhist said, Buddha taught there were no idols. And Buddha did. You can't be a true Buddhist and believe in images and idols. Anything Buddha taught, it was that anything you saw didn't have reality. Anything in the world he taught. Buddha said there are no images. On 8:4 is concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice to idols. We know, we Christians, We know an idol is nothing in the world, and there's none other God but one. Look at verse 6. To us, there's one God, one Lord Jesus Christ. What does that remind you of? Ephesians 4. Paul knew everything in 1 Corinthians. He knew in Ephesians 4. He didn't say, I used to think there were many lords, but I found out there was one. And I used to think there was many gods, but I found out there was one. And I used to think there was many baptisms, but now I found there was one. Nonsense. He knew there was one Lord and one faith, one baptism all through the thing. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or earth, now watch this, parenthesis, as there be gods many and lords many. There are many gods, and there are many lords. But to a Christian, 6, but to us, there's but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we by him. He created everything. He created us. Yes. He's thinking of a spiritual being, undoubtedly. Turn to Psalm 82. They're there. And the Lord warned the Jew, don't make mention of the name of the other gods, let it not be mentioned out of thy mouth, and you're not to revile the gods, they're cursed the rule of thy people. And in Psalm 82, they're mentioned. Psalm 82:1, God stands in the congregation of the mighty. He judges among the gods, G-O-S. Verse 6, I have said ye are gods, G-O-S, and all of you are children of the Most High, but you shall die like men. Then they're not men. You don't say cats are going to die like cats. If he says, I have said you're a cat, he wouldn't say, but you shall die like a cat. You don't say you're a dog, but you'll die like a dog. If you put a butt in there, you're a dog, but you die like something else. But you'll die as like men and fall like one of the princes. And the devil in 1 Corinthians chapter 4 is called the God of this world, a spiritual being, G-O-D. All right, 1 Corinthians 8:5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or earth, as there be gods many and lords many. And turn back to Jeremiah, and I don't have this marked, if somebody has it marked. Where's that verse that says, Thus saith the Lord, the gods that didn't create the heavens and the earth, even them they shall perish from under the heavens? 10:11. That's it, 10:11. Following the passage on the Christmas tree. Joy ex Noel. Jeremiah 10:11. Thus shall you say to them, the gods, G-O-D-S, that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. All right, 1 Corinthians 8:5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, whether in heaven, see that thing? Whether in heaven, not just on the ground. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as there be gods many and lords many. Paul says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. But to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, the creation, and we by him, he created us, the new man. Howbeit there's not in every man that knowledge, not every man knows, there's only one, real one. Howbeit there's not in every man that knowledge, for some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. I'll read 2 verses, then we'll try to get it together. 10. If any man see thee which hast knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience, matches verse 7, of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to an idol? It matches verse 7. You see the same words, conscience, offered to an idol, conscience, offered to an idol. Now, verse 13. Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. Now, that's the highest ground the Christian ever gets on right there. You don't get any higher ground than that. And that ground there is beyond sinlessness. That's pretty close to perfection. And that ground there, it's not just a matter of you not doing something wrong, which is abstaining from sin, and not merely abstaining from all appearance of evil. But that thing there is abstaining for something that you have a right to do, and may have faith to do, and may believe you can do. And you may have enough faith to do it and not doubt when you do it. Now, he said, he that doubts is damned if he eats, because whatever is not of faith is sin. Well, you may have enough faith to go ahead. And to you, the thing may be proper and right in place, and your conscience may not convict you on it, and you may know enough about the situation, about the Lord dealing with you, and you're dealing with the Lord, to go ahead. But then you forbear for the sake of somebody else. And that's the highest ground you ever get on. That's cutting self out. And self is hard to cut out. Boy, if you could just get rid of me, you'd sure have it made, wouldn't you? Me is the whole problem. A fellow said to me one time recently, he said, it seems to me, he said, that sometimes, he says, I'm just standing here, the whole universe is revolving around me. That's where everybody is. You look out behind these shutters, you see, and I'm looking out at you now, and you're sitting out there in front of me, and you're there, and I'm here. But you're sitting there, and as far as you're concerned, the center's back there, and the scene's out here. One of those old skeptics said, we go right on thinking that people are thinking about us. But he said, people aren't like that. They're like us, they're thinking about themselves. And that's the truth. Did you ever think somebody's laughing at you? And they weren't? And you checked on it later and found they're laughing at something else? It's the weirdest thing. And you ever get somebody nervous, and thought it was something you were doing, and they were worried about it, they were afraid of something they were doing. We're self-centered. And so if you get rid of self, you have it made. And the way you get rid of self, I guess, is to bury it, or get it raptured. And in this thing here, here's what's taking place. Paul goes downtown, and he goes by let's read a couple more verses. 1 Corinthians 9. No, 10. 1 Corinthians 10. 1 Corinthians 10, verse 25. Yeah, we need this one. 1 Corinthians 10:25. Whatever is sold in the shambles, that eat, ask you no questions, for conscience sake, like the verse you read. For the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof, like where you read, all things by him. If any of them that believe not, unsaved, bid you to a feast, and ye be disposed to go, whatsoever is set before you, eat. Ask you no question for conscience sake. Back in verse 25. But if any man say to you, this is offered in sacrifice to idols, which matches what you just read, back in 8:7 and 8:10, eat not. What for? For his sake that showed it, and for conscience sake. Back in chapter 8, verse 13. For the earth is the Lord's, the fullness thereof. Conscience, I say, not thine own conscience, but the other fellow's conscience. Verse 33, even as I please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, for the profit of many that they might be saved. So we'll get all this together now. We'll make an old illustration and a new illustration. In the old illustration, Paul goes downtown, and he got one of his buddies with him, a new convert. And they go downtown, and Paul says, I want 5 pounds of hamburger. And the fellow says, okay, and wraps the thing up and puts an X on the top of the package. And Paul says, what's the X for? And they say, we offered that to the idol this morning down at the temple. That was consecrated to Diana or Jupiter or Zeus or something. And Paul said, well, so what? Gives him the money and goes off with it. I mean, the idol's nothing, right? The idol's nothing. The earth is Lord, the fullness thereof. Meat's for the belly for meat. God shall destroy both it and them. So off he goes with this package, and the new convert going along there saying, oh, how about that? How about that? It's all right to eat things offered to the idol. He does it. I mean, if he can do it, I can do it. You know that old business. If he can do it, I can do it. And so then he goes back in the temple and worships the idol. And you destroy the weak brother for whom Christ died. And the reason why is you don't have any conscience about it, but he's got a conscience about that thing. Because he's just come out of this old pagan religion, and to him that idol and that meat are tied up together. They have a significance. Now, to the strong Christian, don't mean a fool thing in this world. The strong Christian, the flesh is out here and the spirit's there. There's no connection. They're entirely separate, and forget it. But the weak Christian sees the connection. And then he says, a young Christian goes to a banquet. He sits down at the table. And the guy passes him some pork chops and says, here. And the fellow puts some on his plate and eats it. He passed some to Paul, and Paul puts it in his plate. And the fellow who passed the plate said, we offer that to Osiris or Apis this morning in the 10 o'clock service. And Paul said, well, in that case, I'll pass it by. And pass on down the table. And the new convert says, uh-oh, and puts it back on the plate. See? And the thing is that the new convert has a conscience about that thing. Paul has no conscience at all. And you and I wouldn't either. I mean, just like that fellow gave that money to Sam Jones, you know. And Sam said, well, the devil had it long enough. Now the Lord can have it. The liquor dealer gave it to him. I wouldn't bother me. If some old bootlegger died and left me $20 million, it wouldn't bother me a bit. It wouldn't bother me a bit. If he'd go on the Lord's work in about 24 hours. Somebody, don't you have risky money? I don't care what kind of money it is. The money is nothing. The place it came from is nothing. The idol is nothing. It don't make any difference. But you see, a weak Christian, he get a hold of that thing. And so he says, you pass it by for his sake. And when you do that, you're going by his conscience instead of yours. And, brethren, that's one of the best reasons to take care of Sunday that you ever got. And you hyper-dispensational brethren got so much liberty you can fish on Sunday and hunt on Sunday and work on Sunday. You got too much liberty. And you got liberty to do anything you want to, but for the sake of the weak brethren, you ought to be careful and not just go bang around killing souls because you're stupid. And Paul says, knowledge puffs up, but charity edifies. You can have that kind of knowledge. I can have knowledge. Christmas is nothing. Easter is nothing, right? Right? Or the kids want to hunt Easter eggs. I go around, Baal worship, you know, on the Easter eggs. Well, if the Easter egg is nothing, what do you object the kid hunting the thing for? Then if it's nothing, you and me go around Christmas time trying to clean all the Christmas trees out of the houses. I don't think you're going to hell just because you got a Christmas tree. And I think you can win people to Christ and have a Christmas tree in your house. And I'm not going to have one. But that's beside the point. The point is, if it's nothing in your house, out of your house. And so some of God's people, they get out there too far. I mean, they get out there where, let me show you the mean. Just show you how pharisaical you can get. I know one of the brethren, he's not here. He doesn't go to church here. And so I can mention, talk behind his back. He talks behind mine, doing other shit. And so this fella here, you know, he thinks it's all right to smoke because you have liberty. See? And so I can drink a little wine, right? You have liberty, right? But it's wrong to have a Christmas tree. Something's wrong, see? Brother, if you got liberty to do one, you got liberty to do the other. You see how that thing works? That thing works where I've got liberty to do what I want to do, but he doesn't have liberty to do what he wants to do. See that thing? You know what that is? That's the devil, brother. And that's what he meant when he said knowledge puffs up, but charity edifies. Now, if you're under liberty, why are you under liberty? Isn't he drawing a line in the thing? He says, go do work for the things that edify, seek to please all men, seeking their profit. Try the best you can to go by their conscience if they're going to get stumbled and offended by it. Some of the brethren kind of wild, you know. I mean, it's all right to desecrate the Sabbath. It's all right to go fishing up the Sabbath, but it's wrong to have a choir, you know. It's wrong to immerse them in water, you know. That's wrong. But it's all right to drink a little wine. Well, you're full of the devil up your ears. That's your problem. And a love can solve a lot of problems that knowledge can't solve. Like when we get to 1 Corinthians 13, we'll see that. And so, suppose he said, unsaved fellow invites you to a feast. All right, you go. Now Christmas time is going to be the time for the feast. I mean, deck the halls with boughs and folly. Fa-la-la-la-la. And so they'll have out the country club and out the yacht club, and you get invited to go. And you work for GMAC, you know, or St. Regis or Ken Strand or something, and your promotion depends upon, for he's a jolly good fellow, so you get an invitation to go. You know what the Bible says? It says, go ahead and go, if you be disposed. If you feel like it's all right to go, go on, go. But then when you get there, if they start this stuff for the sake of the conscience of the weak believer who's there, then be careful, see? I mean, they start ordering stuff to drink there. It's best to order coffee. Now, you see what I'm trying to tell you? There's nothing wrong with drinking a Coke. Is anything wrong with drinking a Coke? Is anybody here believes it's a sin to drink a Coke? Okay. All right. He got liberty to believe that. And so you go there and you sit down at that table and you order Coke, and in comes that Coke. Now, who in the world can tell the difference between a Coke and a Cuba Libre at 20 feet? Or a rum and Coke at 15 feet, or 5 feet, or a foot. The only way you can tell the difference between a Cuba Libre and a rum and Coke is pick the thing up and smell it. You can't help looking at it. And some old backslidden Christian goes going through there and sees you sitting over there, and there you're a big fundamental Bible believer, pass out tracts, witness and all that. There you are sitting at that table, and there are all those glasses, and they're all the same color. You know what he thinks? Well, if he didn't think it, the devil give it to him before he could think it. He'd say, right there. Huh? And you're just innocent as you can be, see? So the thing to do is when you go to functions like that, then you have to be doubly careful, not because of your conscience. What do you care? You could care less. See? I could go there and sit down and say, give me some water. Give me a bottle of 4 Roses. Put the water in that. I bring the bottle of 4 Roses, empty, got nothing but water. Why, that ain't going to bother my conscience any. The bottle's just glass, right? The pure, all things pure. Nothing's unclean of itself, right? Right? And the water in it's good for you. That's good. Drink it right down. But boy, oh boy, my. Can't you just see that? Old guy sitting there, a bottle of 4 Roses, turn up in the air and chug a lug on that thing. Well, who would ever know it was water? And who'd ever bother to find out? So in those cases there, then you have to consider the other man's conscience. And when you live by your conscience and the other man's conscience, it'll cut down your activity considerable. Because Christians have all kinds of convictions, yes.
How the other man won't know what you do when you get inside the building? If you go in the building for these people, and you can just look up right in front of them, how they don't know you're inside the building is
Well, they don't. But normally, ordinarily, in a place like a feast or a banquet, unless it's advertised an orgy, or unless nobody's going to be there but orgiasts, nobody can condemn you and blame you for going to a company function where you're part of the company. It's like a military affair. Now, he doesn't say you have to go. He said if you be disposed to go. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. But if you want to, you're in your rights. You can. Yes.
Well, people try to offer to bring Christian one day. They almost make a metaphor for them to go every time you got them, grass is
Mm-hmm.
It's a ball with it, and you kind of do this, you want something to happen, if you don't have to.
That's good. That's good. Well, that's a good way. So go and have a bottle of root beer and have a sign on it saying this is root beer. People think he's crazy, but out there in the backslidden Christian that place, he doesn't know where he stands. So you get him under conviction too, boy. That's coming to tell you. Brother Clipper went through one of those things recently in a certain GMAC deal. I forget what it was, but he held his ground. And holding his ground, he thought he'd lost promotion, a big raise and everything else, and the Lord dumped an inheritance on his lap and paid him back twice as much for taking the stand. So, the thing to do is take the stand. If you don't think you can take the stand but going, then don't go. But if you're disposed to go, then go. Yes.
You get the Lord straight walk, or you go to the wrong line, so it's like and he's a contact photographer. You just come back to that line, you get the Lord you stand, you take care of it, and the Lord take care of it. You go, it's cool, you go over on the contact photographer. You go, might want to answer the right thing.
Amen.
I personally go with the preacher church, see. You give us an extra, we let us follow it,
That's true. Yeah, that's true. No, you can't. You can't. There has to be a reasonable attitude toward it. In other words, if you went by every Christian, you can't please everybody. If you went by all their convictions, you get them all mad at you. You cross somewhere. You can't. It can't be the guide life for everything. It has to be reasonable. It has to be reasonable. For example, I don't think Lester Roloff is going to perish if I eat meat beside him. And according to Romans, if he thinks it's wrong to eat meat, he's a weak brother. According to Romans. Yeah, that's right. That's it. But wait a minute now. I know perfectly well that Roloff is a strong Christian. Because he'll take steps by faith that a lot of meat eaters wouldn't fool with. See? So you have to take a reasonable attitude toward it, and they can't put too much on you. I mean, you can't let them just box you in. And everything he says here, from the very first verse to the last verse, has to do with the ministry. And you can see that with one glance down it. Verse 7 has to do with fighting for the Lord, taking care of a vineyard for the Lord, working for the Lord, verse 9, plowing and sowing, verse 10, ministering at the temple, verse 13, preaching the gospel, verse 16, and the apostleship, verse 1, 2, and 3. So the whole thing's on the ministry. And it's a justification of the ministry, and it's a defense of the ministry to the Corinthians. All right, 9:1, and the first answers are all implied yes. Am I not an apostle? And the implied answer is yes, I am an apostle. Am I an apostle? Yes. Am I not free? Yes. Now, this goes back to verse 12 and 13, which shows that when he says, am I not free, he's saying, haven't I got power to do these things? Now, one thing he's been talking about is that liberty, back in verse 7, 8, 9, and 10. And the case he used was that business of eating meat offered to an idol. So when he says, am I not free, he's saying, don't I have power to go ahead and eat the stuff? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. So am I not free? Don't I have liberty? Like 8, 9, take heed lest by any means this liberty. And then he says in verse 13, wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. But I'm free to eat it. I mean, if I don't eat it, it's for his sake. It isn't because I can't. I'm free to do it.